Greetings, Calico fans. This is H.H. Sherman from Sigma Comics, coming to you from New York City. Today we're going to talk about Mike Tyson versus Buster Douglas, who won. Before I give you my take on that answer, of course I got to take a shot from the Calico mug. Good stuff. So, what a shocking fight that was. I saw it on closed circuit like many of us did here in the States. This fight took place in Japan, as many of you know. Tyson won that fight. And here's the very simple reason why. Buster Douglas, I think, was down for about 13 or 14 seconds. If you actually listen to the count that they gave him, he did not get up in time when he was knocked down by Mike Tyson. So they gave that man quite a bit of time to get up. And he certainly was not, didn't have all his faculties, proper when he was around the 7 or 8 count. Which is to say that if I think had there been another referee, the likelihood of him being counted out was very high, and you could see that in pretty much any of the fights then and now. If you're not up by around 7, okay, there's already that right there alone is enough to tell the referee, okay, I'm teetering on stopping this fight. Well, this guy wasn't even close to okay by 6 or 7. That's why Tyson won the fight. And you say, well, he still got his ass kicked. Yeah, he took a good beating, and frankly, I could say this as a fighter. I could say this. Okay, this isn't because I think Tyson personally deserved to get his ass kicked. I think he deserved to get his ass kicked because he didn't put in the training that he was supposed to. He'd probably tell you this himself. Tyson would tell you this himself, I'm confident in saying, because he is probably one of the most honest people I have ever come across on the web here, now that he's very public, in the information age, through videos and whatnot. But it's countless times that he has been just as honest as the day is bright, because of he's someone who's been very blessed. And he can tell you himself he's been very blessed in life, and he has no reason to hide anything or lie. He didn't train as hard as he usually did, certainly nowhere near as hard as when he was under the tutelage of the great Customato, and of course Kevin Rooney, one of his disciples. So no, it wasn't the Mike Tyson that we all knew from the mid and late 80s. This happened in 90, if I'm not mistaken, 90 or 91. I think it was 90 in Japan. It was January of 90. It's either January of 90 or January of 91. I think it was January of 90. He was partying. He was involved in alcohol use and possibly the use of other agents. Obviously, I wasn't there. I wouldn't know that, but this is from what's been widely reported. So, probably eating and drinking and partying with, people who are into that. And here you are, the week and weekend of the fight, not in an optimal situation to be carrying on in a world championship fight of all things. I mean, it's not as bad enough. It would be any other fight. This was a world championship fight. I've been fortunate to fight in both. I fought in both regular, show fights and championship fights. I fought. My world championship was not fought in the boxing ring. It was in the octagon, back in the 90s as well. So I know what it's like to prepare for a fight, to be in optimal shape. And I certainly, speaking as a former fighter, I would not enter the ring or octagon in those circumstances. And that's because I am guilty of doing it one time. And again, this was a show fight, not a championship fight. And I paid the consequences. It was a close fight, but I lost it. And, you know, at the time I was very upset because I had knocked the guy, despite being in, you know, despite not being in great shape, I still knocked the guy out of, you know, down. But it wasn't enough. Now, granted, he was a local fighter, and he had his whole, you know, the judges and everything were from his gym. Everything was it was a show fight. So we were fighting in his local, you know, gym and everything. So or ring. And you know, it was a close fight, and he got the edge. Listen, it is what it is. Even though I was the one who scored the knockdown and on a 3-round fight, somehow he wins the fight. But I'm not complaining. Why? Because I showed up not in the great condition. I was eating foods that I shouldn't have been eating. And frankly, I did it because I wasn't taking the guy seriously. And shame on me for that. And that's what I mean when I say what I said about Tyson. Shame on him for that. He knows he deserved to lose the same way I deserve to lose. Fighting, like he knows, is a religion. It's a very serious thing. It's more than just a sport. This man, you know, a lot of people don't give him enough credit, that being Tyson. They just see him as some kind of big, you know, burly, you know, brawler. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard, ever. And it's usually people, the casuals, who think this. People who really don't know about fighting. Mike Tyson is an enigma. He's a prodigy. He is part of a much bigger story. Cus D'Amato spent years, decades, arriving at this style called this tight defense, okay? These guys call it the peekaboo style. It's really tight defense. It is very different from many other styles, especially those that carry the arms high or outside of the body. The tight defense relies on keeping the arms, the limbs, close to the body to create more of a compact structure, aerodynamic. The man was blazingly fast, and that was part of the terror that the the typical heavyweight felt in the 80s and 90s fighting against this man. He brought the kind of speed and aerodynamicism into the boxing ring that was simply never witnessed before. And these men, found themselves with broken bones, unconscious, bleeding from head to toe. I mean, it was just a disaster. The last thing you wanted to do in the 80s and 90s as a heavyweight boxer was sign a fight against Mike Tyson. So Buster lost that fight. He got busted up. Buster got busted up really well by a wonderful shot by Mike Tyson there. If I'm not mistaken, it was the 9th or 10th round. I think it was the ninth round. Bottom line is, Buster got knocked down. And frankly, according to pretty much any referee that would have refereed that fight, knocked out. Because he simply did not get up by, and ready and conscious and ready, fully ready to engage in combat by the 10 count. And that's what you have to have in boxing. In other words, if not, you're knocked out. So that's my take on it. Now, was Buster Douglas amazing that night? Did he ultimately win that fight due to the error, in my opinion, by the referee? Oh, absolutely. He did. There are times in fights, and I've said it before, and I'm sure other fighters have, hey, if this fight was this many rounds or that many, I would have won the fight, et cetera, et cetera. I've been in fights where, in amateur boxing, most of my, I was mainly an amateur fighter. I say I was a professional. I fought in a professional fight. Well, I only fought in one professional fight, and that was in MMA. But in terms of boxing, I was only an amateur, okay? In amateurs, we're limited to 3 rounds, okay? There were times in fights, mainly in sparring, because I didn't lose many times. Certainly in sparring, where I went up against people, and I know for a fact that if there were more rounds, I definitely would have done better. And or if it was judged for win and loss, I definitely would have picked up the win. Again, not many that I lost either on the sparring end. But, there were a couple. So that's it. That's my answer. Mike won that fight. All right, so Calico fans, and I know some of you guys are boxing fans too. If you read Here Comes Calico, chances are you're also a boxing fan, and you might have seen that fight. So what's your take on it? Let us know in the comments below. That's my take on it. Again, Buster, wonderful achievement, but Buster, you lost that night. At least unofficially, and certainly in the rules of many, of the Queensberry rules of boxing. Folks, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and more people like yourself will learn about this wonderful channel where our main goal is to fight animal abuse through comics, through our comic book and manga series, Here Comes Calico. Hector Gill is the Calico, a former boxer from the Bronx who gets intel on people who abuse and kill animals and goes after those assholes with extreme, and I mean extreme, justice. He whips their ass. Help us fight animal abuse. Keep fighting for animals.